Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television, radio, and podcast talk show. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning 2 p.m. on the Eastern Time Zone. As I get to ride home with you in the afternoon, you can find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications. That's close to Huntsville, Alabama, between Huntsville and Guntersville. You can also find us on Abundant Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com and the biggest radio station in South Carolina. It's the country station, WZLA. We appreciate them letting us be part of their family as well. Continue sending email, Donna@donnasedge.com, Donna@donnasedge.com. I have Chuck and Mary Lynn Bailey with me right now. They're with the Alabama Fair Tax. And there's a Q code down there where you can click that and you can order the book about fair tax. And I'm really excited to say that I've read the book multiple times. I've still got it. It's got blood, sweat, and tears in the pages of it. I think we've got to do this. We've got to make it happen. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hello, Donna.
Hey, Donna.
With that kind of an introduction, what else can you say? I remember the first time, though, so a friend of mine, Ann Eubank, and everybody knows Ann, she's with the Alabama Legislative Watchdogs. And so when I heard her say one time, I'm not really a Democrat or a Republican. And I said, well, what are you? And she said, I'm a patriot. And I said, well, what does all that mean? And that's back when we had, the different organizations and stuff available for us, And she said, well, there's a meeting you've got to attend. It's going to be in your neck of the woods in Fort Payne, Alabama. And I said, I'm tired. I have been on the show all day long. I don't feel like it. And she said, you got to go. You got to go see this. And I said, what's it about? And she said, it's about fair tax. I said, what's fair tax? See, I hadn't even heard of it yet. Right. And so I said, all right, I'll shut up unless I do. So Ann and I are friends. You don't know, we fuss with each other like sisters. So anyway, we go, and I'm like, I wish we could hurry up and get on with this. I've got to hurry up and get back home. We stopped at the Western Sizzling, and I thought, well, one good thing is I'll just stop and get supper on the way home. That's about what I was thinking. And then you guys got on the stage, and you started talking about fair tax. Nobody could have been more like this than I was.
Right.
So let's talk to the business owner who has no time to listen to anything. They're busy running their business, but they know there has to be a change. Right. What can you say to those folks?
They need to do everything they can to get the fair tax in, because as a business owner, they're completely lifted of all the responsibilities of the income tax.
Well, the income tax form that you fill out.
Yeah, all the stuff like they got to collect money from their employees to pay their income taxes. Plus, they have to collect the money out of the employee's paycheck to pay for Social Security and Medicare. And they're the ones on the hook for all of that. Whereas with fair tax, when you pay, maybe you buy something new or a service for your own personal use, you're paying Social Security, Medicare, and all that stuff in that 23 cents. And anybody that tells you that you need more money than 23 cents is just lying to you, because they haven't done the math.
Well, it's actually a flat tax, because it's the 23% is on all new goods and services for anyone who purchases anything at retail. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter if you make $1 million a year, or if you don't make any money a year, you're going to pay that much. And then the tax up to the poverty level is what we call prebated, which means you receive a rebate at the beginning of the month before you ever spend the money that would cover the tax that you would spend up to the poverty level for your family's circumstances. It has nothing to do with income. The information you have to give the government in order to pay your taxes is John Linder held up a blank page. The government doesn't need to know any more about you than you do.
This is your new tax form,
exactly.
A blank sheet.
Now, but there is one form you have to fill out if you want the rebate. It's totally optional. Mm-hmm. You can be anonymous if you make, if you have enough money that whatever the prebate is for your family circumstances equals what you would spend on a cup of coffee, then it's you probably would just say, okay, I'll forfeit that amount. But it's so easy, and again, the government doesn't have to know anything about you in order, for you to pay your taxes. It's just like paying a sales tax, except the retailer collects it only on new goods. So
let me mention, I'm going to throw something else in here. Okay, so everybody's talking about the SAVE Act, right? We're all talking about that. Okay, if you're for the SAVE Act, I would think you would be for this, because you mentioned the prebate. Only American citizens get that, the prebate.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
You have to be an American citizen with a verified address and a verified Social Security number.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get it.
Mm-hmm. And for the Alabama fair tax, you have to be an Alabama resident. Same thing.
Mm-hmm. Those two or three requirements are still the same, but then you gotta have a residence in Alabama.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's a question that came in. and this is a good question right here. This person apparently lives in Tennessee. Okay, so they said, okay, if there are some taxes we don't pay living here in Tennessee, so is that a form of fair tax? I think it's a pretty good question.
Well, it's not, because you got to have the prebate and you got to have all other income taxes wiped out. And like you said in the last segment, we're going to try to get property tax coming in there too, because I don't know how the government figures out that they own your house.
Or that you're renting your house from the state.
Right.
Yeah. The one thing is that states and the federal government, they collect their taxes. How they get it depends on what state you live in.
Right.
But in Tennessee, the property taxes are a lot higher than they are in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure about their corporate tax either, because they may still have some corporate tax.
Yeah.
That's
but isn't it kind of like a weighing scale? Okay, they're paying property taxes are pretty high, but other things that a state may not be paying on, it kind of weighs out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because if they say, okay, no gas taxes, well, they're going to find it's another way to tax you.
That's
Exactly.
right.
That's why we need fair tax.
Exactly.
Right.
With the fair tax, you know exactly how much tax you're paying. It's it's not.
And it covers all, because what happens with the fair tax is you determine what your net GDP for the state is for a given year, and you look at that number, and you divide it by the amount of money that you need in your budget. You set your budget, and then that'll tell you what the value of the tax is, and it keeps coming out around 6.5% for us. It's kind of a what do you call it, an empirical number?
Well, yeah, simply the 23% has been that. The 23% has been the same number that they came up with in 1982 when I first heard about the concept. It was 23%. It takes that much money to run the federal government, and
to pay for legitimate services that they've
for the money that they spend. Yeah. So that hasn't changed. What changes is how they collect the money, and actually the income tax is a form of fascism. If the government controls what you buy and when you buy it and when you pay your taxes. And
but you get to work for the money and gather some.
Well, actually, the federal government gets the money before you do. If you're a person who earns money, then that money first is filtered through the federal government. The federal government takes their share and then allows you to have what's left. And if you think there's a discrepancy between what you paid and what how much overage you paid, then you have to rectify that on April 15th.
You have to prove it.
You have to prove that the government owes you money. And with the fair tax, you pay the tax, one and done. As soon as you pay the tax, you don't have to keep receipts. It's done. And I can't think of anything more free than that, frankly. Freedom is very, very important to me, and that is one way that we can take the power of the government out of our daily lives.
Mhm. I wanted to mention this to my friends who are holding corporate jobs because I held one for a long time through GTE. And I'll just have to tell you, the more money I made, the more they took out. And I remember one time I made a huge commission, and it was an ungodly amount of taxes that were taken out of that check.
Yep.
And so I went into my boss's office and I said, "There's something wrong with this." And he said, "There's nothing wrong with it." And I said, "Oh yeah, there is." I said, "I just had this big commission. Am I like supposed to not work hard? Is this what you're trying to get me to do? Is not work so hard so I won't have to have so much of a percentage of my check taken out to go on taxes?" This is when pretty close to when Bill Clinton was president, and we're seeing some government waste going there as well.
Yeah.
And then the Bushes come along. I'm seeing all this government waste. I don't care if it's a Democrat or Republican. It is happening.
Well, they invented the NGOs to cover there's always a new way of ripping you off. The NGOs are one. And that's the Congress, elected people make a lot of money.
Well, and I like to entertain it this way because one time, so I was called a sales representative with GTE, So my boss is all excited and he calls me and he wants me to come in his office. He's got some great news for me. I always got suspicious when he had great news for me, So anyway, I'm sitting in his office. I said, "What's the deal?" And he said, "You've just been promoted." And I said, "I didn't ask for a promotion. I'm happy with what I do. I get to handle the government and the corporate accounts." And he said, "You're going to be a commercial account executive." And I said, "What's that?" And then he said, "You'll be taking care of the government and corporate accounts." And I said, "That's what I'm doing now. I don't want the title." I said, "Oh, wait a minute. Are you working with my commission?" Yeah, that's what it was. So I was getting less commission, but they thought I would be happy to have a job title of being called a commercial account executive. And I said, "I forfeit that. Call me the janitor. I don't care what you call me. I want to keep it like it is." Well, of course, that didn't happen. But the government works exactly the same way. They make you think you're getting a deal when you're not. They're getting the deal.
Yeah, that same thing happened with us when Chuck was working before he retired. At Christmas time, the company closed down for 2 weeks, and so if he worked during that time, he got, I don't know, it was double pay. I think it was double pay, but we ended up never getting money out of it because it put us into another tax bracket. The federal government got most of it. It always went to taxes. We lost the time with him at home, so the federal government collect more money. It just didn't pay off. So,
did they thank you for that, Chuck? Did they thank you for contributing to them?
Negative.
Let's go into a commercial break. I'm going to say what you probably wanted to say. We'll be in a break. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. Everybody hang in there. Queen City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. Finding the right home isn't just about bedrooms and square footage. It's about comfort, security, and the feeling you get the moment you walk through the door. That's why so many families across Greenwood and the Lakelands area trust Jenny Ferguson with Keller Williams. And I'll tell you from personal experience, Jenny was my realtor, and she truly cares about her clients. Jenny takes the time to listen, to understand what matters most, and to guide you every step of the way, whether you're buying your first home, upgrading, or ready to sell. Because this isn't just a transaction, it's your life. With local knowledge, personal care, and a commitment to getting it right, Jenny Ferguson makes the process simple and even enjoyable. So if you're thinking about buying or selling, now's the time to make your move. Call Jenny Ferguson with Keller Williams in Greenwood today and take the next step toward a place you'll truly love coming home to. Shine your style at Kiss My Glass right here in the Anderson Mall. There's a place where style meets sparkle. At Kiss My Glass, every piece is handcrafted, custom designed, and made to shine just like you. Owner Beth Gibson brings creativity to life with stunning custom tumblers, gifts, and one-of-a-kind pieces you won't find anywhere else. Look for the perfect gift or something uniquely you, from bold and glamorous to simple and elegant. There's something for every style, so stop by, get inspired, and leave with something unforgettable. Kiss My Glass inside the Anderson Mall, Anderson, South Carolina, where your sparkle begins. Be sure to check out Kiss My Glass on Facebook for updates and specials and gift ideas. Good afternoon, Sunshine. Medical Minute brought to you by Dr. Chuck with Lakeland's Chiropractic, where an ounce of prevention is worth what? A pound of cure. So what is the Beamer? Okay, now the Beamer uses very gentle pulse to electromagnetic signals. This will stimulate healthy muscles and it supports the temporary blood flow. Now let's talk Beamer and circulation support. Now the Beamer gently supports natural circulation in healthy muscles. Now that's what I call natural health. Thank you so much for watching your Medical Minute, brought to you by Dr. Chuck. You know who he's with. He's with Lakeland's Chiropractic, where an ounce of prevention is worth what? A pound of cure. I hope you have a super duper awesome rest of the afternoon. You take care. Good afternoon. We are back. Thank you so much for being part of our world. We love being part of yours. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television, radio, and podcast talk show. Let's get right to it. I have Chuck and Mary Lynn Bailey with me right now. They're with Alabama Fair Tax. If you'll click on that QR code right there, you'll be able to find the book. And I encourage you to please get educated on this because it's extremely important. We've got to take the power away from the government. We just gotta. And here's a good question right here. This is one of our folks who watches the show. One of the biggest frustrations people have is seeing so much taken out of every paycheck. How will the fair tax affect workers and their take-home pay?
Well, what would happen is all that FICA and all that stuff goes away because there's no IRS anymore, so who's going to collect it? And the second part of that is that you get your whole paycheck, plus the embedded taxes and everything that you buy will go away, since the corporations or local businesses, they don't have to collect that stuff anymore because the 23 cents takes care of that. So it's a win-win all around, and people don't think about this either. You have the we talked about the prebate a little earlier. What the prebate does is that it turns the equation around. It puts you and your family first, and then the government second. If you think about it, you're first and they're second because you're getting that prebate to cover up to the profit of all the spending you'll have on money.
Now you take home your whole paycheck.
Yeah, you get your whole paycheck.
So
well, you'll have allotments and stuff but that's still your money if you're sending it off to an allotment. So you get your full paycheck, and then when you buy something, that's when you pay the tax.
We had a neighbor one time that had, every year they would overpay their taxes. So they got a big windfall on April 15th or whenever they filed their taxes. And I never could understand why they did that, because they were giving the federal government a interest-free loan. Free. They could have put that extra money into a savings account and at least drawn some interest on it. But instead, they used that money. That was their vacation money. And they thought they were doing such a smart thing, saving that money by giving it to the federal government.
No, we're not paying any taxes. We get it back.
Yeah, I've heard that so many times. When we talk about fair tax, we have people tell us, well, I don't pay taxes. I get money back.
And then they kind of do a double take and you say, yeah, you do, because everything you buy has got embedded taxes in it up to 28%.
So, yeah, not
They
only
do
are
double tax. What?
yeah, not only are you paying income tax, you're paying for goods with money that's already been taxed. That includes taxes that have been collected at every level of development for whatever that product
You
is.
know what else you need to think about? You're also paying for Nancy Pelosi's and AOC's wine parties, wine and cheese get-togethers when they go to Greece.
Exactly.
You're paying for those things as well. I mean, you really, really are. I wanted to mention one other thing too about business owners. Now, fair tax is for everybody, okay? But I'm just telling you, the cogs that crank are from your small business owners. And I remember when we had those 8 stores, Phil and I spent most of our time double checking everything just to make sure the government was taken care of when we were paying our taxes in, because you did not want to get a shocking letter from them saying you owe an extra $1,000 because you were late, or an extra $10,000 because you were late on paying something. We spent a lot of time doing that we could have spent building the business.
You have to imagine if you were getting paid for that time, how much more money you would have made.
Oh,
yeah,
a lot more. Okay, let's get to another question. Let's see, they've got to that one. Okay. How would retirees, especially those living on Social Security or fixed incomes, be affected? That's a concern for us.
Yeah, that question comes up all the time, and people forget that some of them talk about their Roth IRAs and all the other different IRAs. Well, you're not paying all the taxes in there. Well, you're going to have a prebate. You're not going to be paying any more taxes on your Roth IRA or the other IRAs, because that's your money. Once it goes into effect, that's your money. So you're not going to pay any taxes on that money past the time that the fair tax starts. So yeah, I think the seniors are going to be even or do better.
Mm-hmm. Well, they actually, there wouldn't be any need for an IRA because that's an income tax generated account.
You'll find your own savings account.
But as far as living on Social Security, the money you pay no taxes up to the poverty level. So if you are living simply on Social Security, chances are you're paying no taxes at all, because the prebate will compensate the amount of money that you spend on your taxes. So, and because of the prebate, the amount of taxes that you pay beyond the poverty level is, I think it's if you double the amount of the poverty level, you're paying the amount of the percentage of tax that you pay is no longer 23%. It's you would have to earn or spend up to over $1 million in order to actually pay close to 23% if you are getting the prebate.
Well, I'll take it. You know me, I'll take it. We've got about a little bit over 5 minutes left in this segment, so we've got time for a couple more questions. Let's see, and this is kind of what I've already said, but I'll go ahead and do this one. Small business owners often say taxes are one of their biggest burdens. Okay, how would the fair tax impact entrepreneurs and local business?
It would leave them wide open. They wouldn't have to worry about doing all that stuff anymore.
Well, business owners are essentially working for the federal government, and they don't get paid to do it. They actually, and again, this is something we haven't mentioned before, but the fair tax actually pays a percentage of the money collected to the business owners. So they actually get. It's not a huge amount, but it does.
That would be the retailer.
Yes, the person who actually at retail collects that money does get a rebate or a fee for actually collecting the money and giving it to the collection agency, which would be the state. So,
well, here's another good question for you, and it's somebody's going to try it, but how could a taxpayer cheat if they own a business when it comes to fair tax?
Takes two to cheat. The person is selling and the person is buying. You only have one person cheat now. That's the person is still not.
That's going to cut a lot of that garbage out.
We cut it down to about 10%.
Well, there will be people who cheat. There always are, and there's always someone who finds out a way to cheat. But we have cheaters with the income tax, and to be honest, we spoke earlier about NGOs. There was money collected for the fire disaster victims in California. They had a big concert, raised $100 million. That money was sent to an NGO in the Northeast. That NGO spread that money out over other NGOs, and the disaster victims got nothing.
Zero.
The NGOs got paid. So NGOs are a function of the income tax, and we have got to get rid of that too.
Uh-huh.
No matter how charitable it sounds, it grows into a monster, and it pays the people who actually keep it going.
About a little bit less than 3 minutes left, and this is a good one here for you too. One feature people hear about is something called the prebate. Could you explain what that is and why it's included in the fair tax plan? I didn't mean to do that one. It's the next one. Okay, some people worry that prices would suddenly increase. What do supporters in the fair tax say would actually happen to the cost of goods and services?
Yeah, that's because whoever says that hasn't thought about it, or they work for one of these think tanks like I was talking about that don't want it to happen, so they'll say, oh, well, you're going to be paying that on top of it. No, the IRS is going away. There's not going to be any income tax. So what happens is most products and services have embedded taxes in them, and that ranges from 16% up to about 28%, depending on what the product is, because some products take more effort and everything, and then as a result collects more tax than like building a car where there are hundreds of people involved in building that car. That tax is going to be less, it'll probably start off being about even or a little more, but then once competition goes into play, the prices of those goods are going to go down. It's just a matter of fact.
Yeah,
there are all kinds of examples out there where taxes were higher on such and such a thing like airplane tickets, and the government came along and said, no, you can't do that anymore, and they lower the taxes. Well, then the first airline lowers it, and the second airline, and all of a sudden all of the airlines have lowered their taxes on the flight because they can't compete.
Look at Walmart. They compete with other companies because they can lower.
They can.
Costs. The same thing with the fair tax. And again, like Chuck said, it may start out that they'll be charging the same amount for everything, but once someone realizes that they can sell it for less, they can grow their business by selling for less.
Yeah. Well, I remember back in the 1960s, my granddad and both my granddad's dad talking about gas wars. And it's where a competing gas company selling gasoline to cars, one would lower their price, then this one would lower their price just a little bit, then that one wouldn't, then that one, and they called it gas wars. And I think that's what you'll probably see. It'll be an all-in competition. Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for being with me on the show. I wish we could have gotten to all of them. I'm going to save the questions, okay? But continue sending email, Donna@donnasedge.com, Donna@donnasedge.com. One more time, how can folks find more information about fair tax?
Well, let me tell you this. We're working on a AI product that's going to take all of the real correct information on the fair tax and put it into a single pot, and you'll be able to. I'll keep you up to date on what's happening. So a person will be able to go in there and answer a question and think about what they want to ask, and they'll know with this particular AI, they'll get the correct answer back, and it's going to be good.
Chuck is on, we're on at alfairtax.org, and Chuck is on Facebook. You want to give me Facebook? And
it's Chuck Bailey.
Well, he will answer your questions about fair tax. You send a question, and he will answer it individually. So
absolutely. Guys, we got to go. And thank you guys so much for watching, and appreciate our sponsors. You're awesome. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Donna.
Cheerio.
Lowe's knows that the projects you build in spring are the ones you can't wait to share. It's why we make sure you have our best deals with My Lowe's Rewards, and that you get help from people who've
been there,
done that.
Try this.
This spring, we'll help you build something rewarding.
Hey, Stan. What's up? I made you something. Oh, thank you. And I got something for you. You grew these? Of course.
Lowe's knows how to help you spring.